Okay, let's jump right into this explainer. We are looking at something absolutely wild today. How a legendary 16th century samurai essentially engineered a completely obedient mind. If you've ever felt like you're just constantly at war with yourself, trying to get things done but getting in your own way, you are definitely going to want to pay close attention to this. Seriously, think about it for a second. Why does your own mind sabotage you? You make a firm decision to focus, right? But then you get completely distracted. You set an alarm to wake up early, but you end up smashing the snooze button. It's like your mind is constantly overruling your actual decisions. We usually just beat ourselves up over this. We think, oh, I just lack willpower, or my brain is just naturally chaotic. But what if the problem isn't that your mind is broken? What if it's just completely untrained? Section 1. The Untrained Mind. Let's rewind all the way back to the year 1600. Miyamoto Musashi was this 16-year-old absolute prodigy. He already had 3 lethal duels under his belt. His sword technique was flawless, his body was super conditioned, but during his 4th duel, he made a genuinely terrifying discovery. 3 seconds. As his opponent charged at him, Musashi's mind froze for 3 agonizing seconds. Now, his physical body knew the exact countermove perfectly, but this massive flood of anxious thoughts just hijacked his response. He barely survived, and those 3 seconds completely haunted him. He had this massive realization. He had spent 6 brutal years training his physical body, but he had spent absolutely 0 hours training his wild, chaotic mind.
So, what does he do? He actually stops his physical sword training entirely for a whole month just to study his internal enemy. He tracked every single moment of mental resistance, and the pattern was glaring. Whenever he made a conscious decision, like, say, waking at dawn, his mind would instantly fire back with the lazy counter-argument, like, just 5 more minutes. And the result? It was always the same. He obeyed his mind, not his actual decision. He realized he was just a passive observer, completely following his mind's orders.
Section 2. You are not your mind. Most of us just kind of accept this mental sabotage our whole lives because we fundamentally think that we are our minds. But Musashi had this massive paradigm shift. He realized you are the decision maker, and your mind is simply a tool. This realization births his entire system, Kokoro no Shihai, which basically translates to the mastery of the heart-mind. It totally flips the script. It shows us that internal resistance isn't some permanent character flaw you're stuck with, it's just a symptom of an untrained tool. Musashi famously compared an undisciplined mind to a wild horse. It's going to throw you off and take you nowhere you actually want to go. But a trained horse? It responds to your absolute slightest direction.
Think about the huge difference between these two views. If you view your mind as your identity, well, you've got 0 leverage to change it. You're just stuck. But if you view your mind as a totally separate tool, like a wild animal that just needs a really authoritative master, well, now you can actually begin to systematically train it.
Section 3. Progressive Mental Training.
Okay, so how do you actually train an invisible tool? Musashi realized you train the mind the exact same way you would train a bicep, through progressive challenge and super consistent reinforcement. He laid out a very specific timeline. He didn't start by trying to climb a mental mountain. He started with a ridiculously small victory, just to prove a point. Week 1. Sit perfectly still for exactly 5 minutes. When his mind started screaming that it was bored or his leg itched, he simply enforced the directive, no moving. By week 2, he bumped up the stakes to a 30-minute meditation. And by week 3, he started applying it to real life, like commanding himself to wake up at dawn with absolute 0 negotiation. He was slowly establishing total authority.
But, what happens when the mind fights back and actually wins? Because it will. This is where Musashi brought in some incredibly harsh mathematics. He created the consequence rule. If his mind rebelled and he failed a directive, he forced himself to repeat that exact same task 10 times in a row. So if he failed to wake up immediately, he would stand up, lie back down, stand up, lie back down, literally 10 times. His mind very quickly learned that disobedience brings way more suffering than just simple obedience.
Section 4. Cutting off escape routes. So by month 2, Musashi hit a wall. Sheer willpower just wasn't cutting it anymore. He commanded himself not to drink sake, but because the bottle was sitting right there, just 3 steps away in his room, he would rationalize, oh, just 1 cup, and completely fail. This led to a massive breakthrough form, the principle of sen. Sen is essentially the strategic principle of cutting off your own escape paths. Musashi realized his mind obeyed so much better when there was literally no visible escape route, so he took all the sake in his room and threw it away. If his mind really wanted sake now, it meant a grueling 40-minute round-trip walking to the village. Think about how you can architect your own environment for success using this exact principle. If an escape route is available, like say your phone is sitting right there on your desk while you're trying to work, you are constantly draining your willpower just resisting it. But if that escape route is cut, like leaving your phone in a totally different room or putting your alarm clock across the bedroom, giving up actually requires significantly more effort than just doing the task. Obedience suddenly becomes the path of least resistance.
Section 5. The 3-second rule.
Moving into month 3, a sneaky new problem popped up. His mind was finally obeying, which was great, but it was delaying the action by 5 or 10 minutes. He was getting responsiveness, yeah, but delayed responsiveness. The fix for this was the 3-second rule. Musashi realized that between the directive and the action there could be absolutely zero gap. None. The command drops and you must physically begin moving before you reach the count of 3. If his body wasn't moving by 3, boom, that dreaded 10-repetition punishment was triggered.
Because here's the thing, hesitation is lethal. Hesitation creates a mental gap, and that gap gives your mind the time it needs to construct these incredibly logical-sounding counter-arguments. Oh, let's just do it in an hour when we have more energy, right? By the time 5 minutes pass, your original strong command has been negotiated all the way down to nothing. Immediate action is literally the only way to close that gap permanently.
Section 6. The Unified Value Hierarchy. All right, so by month 4, Musashi's mind is obeying instantly. Escape routes are totally cut, but he's still feeling this heavy internal struggle sometimes. He was fighting a civil war where his warrior self wanted greatness, but his lazy self just wanted comfort. This happens anytime you have two conflicting desires of equal strength fighting for control. When they're equal, whichever voice happens to be louder in that specific moment is going to win. It's kind of like trying to direct an army where half the soldiers are secretly working for the enemy. You just can't achieve total control with a divided army. He fixes this by establishing a totally non-negotiable hierarchy of values. Step 1, mastery is the absolute highest priority, period. Step 2, comfort is the absolute lowest priority. Because mastery definitionally outranked comfort every single time, there was literally no room for an internal debate anymore. When the mind whined, sleep more, but the executive decision was train, the hierarchy decided instantly. The internal division just completely dissolved.
Section 7. The Trained Mind.
Fast forward just 1 year of this relentless tracking and training. The transformation was unbelievable. Musashi's training partners noted that he had become like a machine. No hesitation, no struggle whatsoever. He simply decided something and he executed it. To summarize this whole journey, having a responsive mind isn't some genetic lottery you win. It was the direct result of tens of thousands of micro-training sessions utilizing these 5 steps. Every single time you accept your mind's resistance, you are actively training it to disobey you. Musashi ran tens of thousands of sessions teaching his mind the exact opposite, that commands are absolutely mandatory.
Which brings us to this incredibly profound realization Musashi wrote down at age 60 in the Book of 5 Rings. Keep in mind, this guy fought over 60 lethal duels and never lost a single one. He wrote that his invincibility actually wasn't due to some superior technique or crazy physical strength. His only real advantage was absolute cognitive alignment. His 60 flawless duel victories were simply the byproduct of a mind that had been perfectly, systematically trained to serve its master.
So let's wrap this explainer up with a question for you. Your mind's disobedience is not a permanent state, it is just a trained habit. And what has been trained can absolutely be retrained. So what is the first non-negotiable command you are going to give your mind today? Stop accepting that internal rebellion, step fully into the role of the master, and start training your ultimate tool.